Many home accidents involve falls on slippery surfaces, primarily in kitchens and in bathrooms. And again, the physics that is involved comes back to Newton's second law, and that is forces. Let's see how forces apply to our safety in our homes. I have a block here, a fairly smooth wooden block, and when I pull it along the surface of this table, because the surface of the table is also very smooth, it takes little effort, little force to move the block. There is some frictional force between the block and the smooth surface. Now, we haven't talked about friction yet. What is it? Friction is simply a force that acts according to Newton's second law that we've already discussed. But friction is a force that acts in the opposite direction from the motion. So, for example, if I pull the block in this direction along even this smooth surface, there is some friction which opposes the motion. In other words, friction moves back against the block to make it harder to move. When I pull or push the block along a smooth surface, though, it feels quite easy to move. There is very little friction on a smooth surface. If now instead I change my surface and I use sandpaper, a very rough surface, and move the wood along the sandpaper, now it is actually harder enough to move that I can feel a big difference. That's because the sandpaper has a much greater force of friction because of the nature of its surface. So that when I pull the block along the sandpaper, it doesn't move well. There's a great deal of frictional force working back against that motion, opposing that motion. Now, what does this have to do with safety in the home? One of the slipperiest surfaces that we have in our home is in our own bathrooms, particularly bathtubs and showers. They are wet, and the wetness, the water, decreases the friction between our feet and the surface of the bathtub. So that if you step into a bathtub or a shower that is wet, the friction is so decreased between the two surfaces that it's very easy for your foot to move against the surface of that bathtub, just as it's very easy for this block to move on a smooth surface. It's very important, therefore, if you do not have a rough surface already in your bathtub or your shower, to get safety strips, which are similar to sandpaper. Safety strips in the bathtub or safety patterns in the bathtub cause your foot to hit those, and the frictional force opposes the motion that you would ordinarily experience on a wet surface where you'd have a lot of motion, possibly a lot of sliding. So it's important to make sure that the surfaces of your home that may be slippery, that you'll be walking on, are protected. Safety strips, bath mats, all of these protect us in the bathroom, and again, obey the laws of physics. Wet kitchen floors. Warn your family if the kitchen floor is wet. Again, water decreases frictional force and makes it very easy to move. So it makes it very easy for your foot to move on that smooth surface. Makes it easy to slip and slide.